Hey, wonderful learners. This is Coach Chanel, and I am here to give you more secrets in episode 5 of Monday Night Live. Yay! If I sound super excited, it's because I'm trying to amp myself up because I am not fully ready for this live. Okay, so guys, welcome to this live. I'm glad I am able to be here to give you more information. If you're not used to this series, it's a series I have on every Monday. It's Monday Night Live, guys. It's on Monday, it's in the night, and it's alive on YouTube, right? And what I'm doing is discussing different topics. Today, in episode 5, we're looking at time management tricks. And what's super ironic about tonight's live is that I was on another realignment of my own time management because this term is a bit different for me personally. All right. So I had to sort of adjust in terms of what I wanted to do. I had a forecast of what I wanted to do for this term, and then I had to make some mini adjustments. And some adjustments are actually going to be a lot easier for me to put into place at this point in time, as September is nearly at its end. It's going to be a blessed month next month. I love October, guys. Okay, so without further ado, I am going to begin. Um, Guys, I think this topic, so it's not a school subject. It's not English A, it's not Cape Coms, it's not CSEC Spanish, it's not a subject. However, I would tell you, top tier students, one of the hallmarks I think is having good time management. Now, we may not all be perfect at it, one. And I would also say this is not just planning, this is also action. However, time management is something that's really crucial, really important. And when you have a heavy plate, a heavy schedule, you definitely need to know how to balance your time. And I would just share my views on time management and like balancing your time. I would say that the whole work life balance thing is not a static process. Balancing is sometimes like this. All right. Sometimes it's like this, and you've got to pivot to maintain the balance and you've got to adjust. So I do think there's a lot of adjustments in terms of balancing. So please don't think of balances as something static. It is something that, regardless of your age, you need to know and manage because when you're in secondary, school or preparing for secondary level exams, this is at a turning point when you're transitioning to adulthood. Adulting is not fun, guys. I'll let you know. It is not fun. However, there are skills that you can learn from now that are impactful. Yes, you've got to know the school subjects, but if you know all the subjects and you can't figure out when to study, how to study, and if you have time to study, it's going to be problematic. I already did a video discussing, I think that's the third episode, discussing the timetable. The timetable is out for exams next year. It's out. If your teachers don't know and your teachers haven't accessed it, you can go on to cxc.org, get the actual final timetable for exams. So please do that, right? So you want to go ahead and do that and be up to date with your overall goal. Remember, your overall goal is to do well in the exam. I mean, you will have your own personal goal phrased however you want to phrase it. I would still say that's your deadline, that's your end goal, and you need to know about it. Okay. So, how do you harness or prepare yourself in terms of time management for these exams? And I'm being general because CSEC and CAPE are two different groups. When you're in CAPE, you've got exams 2 years in a row. Pretty sucky. I know it's pretty sucky. So you have to be even more hyper aware about your time. Not so aware that you're stressing out about time, but aware that time is a precious commodity and that you need to make sure that time works for you and that you're not chasing down time. We're not supposed to be chasing down anything, all right? It's supposed to be coming towards us, right? So here's the first thing you need to do practically. You need to know your schedule and be like, oh yeah, that's simple. I know my schedule. But when I say know your schedule, you need to know your school timetable because you're more than likely going to an institution, right? whether if it's a public institution or a private institution. You're going to an institution, so you need to know what that academic schedule is like. Then you need to know what your lesson schedule is like. We in the Caribbean, we love lessons, don't we? We love lessons. Got a problem with a subject? You just need to go lessons, right? Um, yes, I give lessons, but I'm also going to say lessons is something that's not necessary for everyone, or you need to make lessons work for you. So, yeah. So you also need to know your lessons timetable. That's definitely part of the process. So school timetable, lessons timetable, and your extracurricular timetable. And I'm mentioning this because I know there are students who I've had students participate in activities outside of school, whether if it's sports or the arts, um, innovation. You might have a particular commitment that's beyond school, but you're not giving up because it's super important, right? So you need to factor your time in terms of that as well. How much can you give to it? How much do you need to apportion from your week towards these three areas, right? Of course, you also need to know how to, you need to need to food yourself. Apologies. You also need to factor in basic necessities like cleansing oneself, nutrition, exercise, recreation. That's part of it. So we're sounding kind of heavy now. I know we're sounding kind of heavy, but you also need to do that. That's practical, and those things are beneficial for living and your life. However, if we're talking about your preparation for exams, school timetable in terms of your subjects, your lessons timetable in terms of those subjects you need additional help with, and extracurricular that you're like, I'm not giving up on. These things save my mental, they're part of my purpose, they're part of my goal, right? What you need to do after that is to consider homework and study time. All right. I've seen students who really try to leverage their time and they use lunchtime for homework. It doesn't mean you're not going to eat lunch, but they use that time. Or on the way home, they review work and material, something like that. So you really start to maximize your times in terms of homework and study. And yes, study is different. Homework is just completing the assignments a teacher gave you for school. It is also practice if it's done really well. So you want to get that done. However, study means, I think I did um like I'm doing literature, you're preparing for Macbeth, right? Or Twelfth Night. And you realize, I read through Act One, but I still don't think I understood what was happening in Act One. I'm gonna go for a study guide and review um, key events in Act One. Or I'm gonna watch a YouTube video on key events in Act One. You should do that. That's study time. Okay? So those are two key things now. You gotta know your schedule and you gotta factor in homework and study time. The third thing that I would recommend is schedule past paper time. So I'm kind of categorizing this a bit separately because homework is what they've asked you to do for school or lessons. Study time is you being aware of what you need assistance in and realizing, hey, I've got to do this and get better at it. Doing the past papers is important because this is what you're preparing for in terms of the exam. This is important because the content for the subject and the actual exam paper sometimes they feel a little different. Okay, sometimes our content is so broad and then the exam paper is like beep. All right, so you want to get used to what the requirements for the actual exam are, and you need to get past papers. And it's not just to do them. Look at the questions, try to understand where the questions are going, and then get used to doing the actual questions. You do need to do this. And for those of you who are in Cape listening to this step is so crucial for you guys. You guys have even less time than CSEC. I know a lot of my Cape students whom I call pre-university. Just a quick second. You have a question? You don't have a question? Okay, she doesn't have a question. So most of my Cape students who are pre-uni, whom I call pre-university, they always tend to say like, wow, I wish I was still in CSEC because they went from having a year and a half, let's say, to prepare for an exam to just one term. And I'm saying one term and let's say a term and a half because by the second term you should be doing past papers. Third term is the exam, more or less. Crazy, right? Yeah, guys. I know. I feel for you. I feel for you, Gabe, guys. So we've got know your schedule, factor in time for homework and study time, and third, schedule past paper time. What's our fourth point? Get feedback. Listen, I have a if I have a mission in this world is to get people used to feedback. I know some people give feedback in horrible ways, truly atrocious. It's abuse. However, for you to progress in your subject, regardless of the subject, you do need feedback. You need good, proper, stable guidance to know, hey, this is where you went wrong and this is where you went right. Keep going right, switch around from the wrong and go right instead, okay? And that's the importance of feedback. If it is, you can work into your schedule for your subjects that inclusion of feedback. If your lessons can give that, that's awesome. And the reason I'm saying if your lessons can give feedback, it's because there are some lessons classes that are simply school but outside of school. And if you have a lessons class that's school but outside of school, it feels kind of pointless sometimes, especially if you have specific needs. So, smaller classes, which may not always be available, that's going to help you leverage feedback most of the times. One on ones definitely can help you leverage feedback if you've got a good instructor. However, I would say you'd have to know that one on ones tend to be a lot more premiumly priced, right? Premiumly priced because it's now one on one attention and more customized work. Okay. So you've got four things that you need to look at for key points for time management. My fifth point, actually, my fifth and my sixth point, I would say, are the most important points. Actually, when I used to give this information, I used to give those 2 points, let's say, first. But there are two reasons that I think that I stopped, right? One is that it can be easily misunderstood. Two, you've got to be hardworking and or mature to understand the importance of these points. For some of you who are here passing through on YouTube, on social media, looking for the answer to the English essay, ha ha ha, um, y'all don't want to know how to do this. You just want the answer so that no one looks down on you. That's only going to work for a few minutes, relatively. Okay, it's only going to work for a short while. At some point in time, you've got to figure out whatever you're interested in, whatever your purpose is, how to get the answer yourself. Yeah. So if it is you're working on building yourself, I'm just gonna continue. And I have said, if it is you're interested in learning how to develop yourself and get better at whatever subject you're tackling, this is a channel for you. If you just want the answer, I'm sure you will find a channel that will just give you the answer and leave you hanging for everything else in life. Okay, great. So here's the point number 5. You need in this crazy schedule, all right, especially Cape students, I love you guys so much. You guys have a lot to deal with, even though you have less subjects to work with, okay? That Cape syllabus is murder. All right, so point number 5, you guys need to rest and recharge. You can't keep going. You do need to build in points and times in your schedule to rest and recharge. And rest and recharge is very basic. You gotta eat healthy, you gotta exercise, um spiritual considerations is also important for me, I would say, for resting and recharging. However, part of it is sometimes just doing something you like. So if you're somebody who likes spending time with your friends and you got good friends, then maybe that's part of your recharge. If your recharge is eating ice cream, that's your recharge. You've got to know what makes you just reset and feel better and put that into your schedule. All right. It's super important because sometimes you just need to feel good in order to tackle the madness. Because I will tell you, this is not easy. All right. And I've had a few students who, and I mean, yes, we can say that, oh my gosh, I wish I were younger. When I was younger, I had less problems, less things to worry about. However, that doesn't mean that at your age, at your stage in life, that you don't experience that you don't experience um, stress. All right, exams can be stressful. All right, exams, especially if it is. I know some students are writing subjects they don't like. You're not writing subjects because you have a purpose or passion. You're just doing it because your parents said, "Hey, you guys got to do these subjects." It is very stressful. All right, and maybe you are getting good advice from your parents, but for you, you can't see the vision. You can't see the future. You don't know what your vision or your future is as yet. So it's stressful. All right. So I don't want you to be stressed because when you're unduly stressed, everything is harder. The work becomes harder. Everything, everything, everything. And I'm saying that having experienced this before. Because when I was in university, I did experience being so supremely stressed that I was listening in class, and this isn't a subject I was doing really well in. I was getting A's and B's, and I had no idea what was going on. I was so stressed, right? So you want to ensure that you're resting and recharging, right? Rest and recharge, really, really important. I know it's going to be that kind of crazy balancing act, like I said. It's going to be like this. You're going to be up and down, you'll be sideways a little bit, right? But you want to ensure you rest and recharge. And my last point, which is something that I think I still utilize, it's oh, hello, I see. Hi, Tani Roo. Hi. Reese is asking something about Ukraine. Girl, Ukraine is a country. Did you not know this? Oh my God, girl, it's a country. Then Chris is saying hi. Hi, Chris. Okay, good. So what I still use is having a reward tied into my studying. All right. So I'll give you an example from when I was in university. And guys, I know this is a boring example, but this is me. I like to read. All right. I like to read. So I remember that I used to go, I don't have a novel here. So I would go to the library and I would borrow a book, that a novel that I know, like, yo, I want to read this, but I have exams because I already had my exam timetable. So I would borrow the book and put it on my desk. And the temptation wasn't right in front of me. Okay. So it's right there, the books right there. And I'm not going to read my books until my last exam. All right. And then if I was truly Machiavellian about this, I know I've got one exam this week and it's a Wednesday, and my next exam is like next week, Thursday. I'm still going to read some of that book because I got a whole week to study, right? So I would essentially study, have the book there as my reward. My reward is in front of my face. And I would wait until that last exam, finish everything. And just because I did what I'm supposed to do, what I set out to, I allowed myself to read. So you got to do something like that. Do it with a Netflix series, do it with going out with your friends, just a mini reward. And that's a mini reward, right? That's really great, really nice. It can get you through the two, and you want to go in short little intervals, brief intervals. So whether if it's a weekly, I like weekly. Daily is probably too much, guys. I'm going to be honest with you. If you reward yourself every day, depending, you may you may shortcut the process. So I would recommend if you try to keep a weekly. Just a second, Chica, you heard that? You good? Guess that's not me either. I'm not hearing anything else again. Guys, I just heard something just go bam on my roof. That's utterly crazy, but I'm not hearing anything else. So I guess we're good. Nice, great. Let's continue. So, what was I saying? What was I saying? What was I saying? Did you hear that, Nathaniel? You heard that? Oh my God, that was just like a loud bang. Which again, there's no other thing happening and no other resulting effects. And I watched a scary video today, so I'm trying not to run away from you guys on the live. Okay, I'm so sorry, guys, if that was so scary. That was scary for me too, and I totally lost my train of thought. Um, with that, but the main thing is, guys, give yourself a reward, a small reward, something that you can manage. Don't make the reward in someone else's control, especially the mini reward. So what I mean by that is like, Don't make it dependent on something like maybe your parents or a teacher or someone else has to do. Make sure it's something you are in charge of and it's going to make you feel better. I'll tell you that. Now, when you get to your exam itself, you could always think of a bigger goal. I've had students, they finish their exams, it's a trip, right? I actually would reward my daughter just for finishing exams, because I think it takes a lot to be focused and prepared. I reward preparation. That's my thing. I reward preparation. So if she really does prepare, because she's writing exams next year as well, if she does all her preparations on point, she would get some type of reward from me. That's just how I roll. I thought she was going to chime in and say something there actually. Um, but for me, the results is a different reward. That's just my concept. I really like preparation, and I think preparation is something that really gives you that long term push for all your future endeavors, right? I think it really, really does. But you should have those weekly rewards to get you to the term, and then you have the major reward for like your preparation and surviving exams. I normally tell students when know your last day and just do something really good that day or that weekend or that night. Whatever you can do, that's really fun. You should definitely do that. And that's my point is give yourself good rewards. I think the loud noise totally threw me off. My brain is totally scrambled. I'm ready to like go into my bed now after that. But guys, that's actually the end of all my information. I actually am looking, what am I looking for? But I did not bring it. I totally didn't bring it. I was gonna tell you guys. Oh yes. So next week we'll have another episode of Monday Night Live. I actually wanted to do argumentative next week, and I was debating not doing it. But I would be going to just for those who are doing CSEC English A 20 2026 and January 2027. After that point, it's the same information. Yeah, it's the same information. So the reason I'm kind of deliberating it is because there's going to be a new exam for CSEC English A from May June 2027. The rubric is slightly different. I'll have some videos coming out about that. So if I do decide to focus on argumentative next week, it's going to be strictly for current exam process, and I should not be talking about the new rubric, which it's not in my head yet. All right. But I'll definitely be planning that for students who are preparing for exams in Jan, because I always say I do think argumentative is actually the easiest essay for the exam. I absolutely love it. I love argumentative. I like proving that I'm right about stuff. That's just me, right? One of my favorite quotes is that I'm not always right. I'm just never wrong. Okay, so I do think it's one of the easiest for the exam. I, however, would say that it's the one where, as the person marking your paper, I am using all the information you give me to either mark you up or mark you down. And that's that's the truth of that. All right, so thank you so much for being here for episode 5. I will see you in episode 6, and I will do a better job of giving updates during the week. Like I said, my time management has been under question this month as I've been adjusting to work, my day job, and back to school with my daughter, as well as a few other things. But I do believe everything's caught up right now, and I can be even more present here and give you guys more updates, even beyond the Monday Night Lives. I do actually have, this is for those of you who have to deal with that new English A paper. I do have some videos coming out in terms of that. So you can look out for that as well. All right. So as I'm going to go and hopefully not see anything gruesome and horrific outside after that loud bang, I'm just going to leave you with the words that I normally believe is a very good mantra for my learners. And that's I am succeeding, I am successful, I know myself, I love myself. All right, guys, have a great day, learners, and thank you so much for being here. Again, I did this for you all with success. Take care. Bye bye.